Hello, this is Salvatore Vinciguerra, and in this video I'm bringing you to Boston, Massachusetts to discover the Clough House. The Clough House is located in Boston's North End, which is the Little Italy area of the city, which has a variety of Italian restaurants, pastry shops, and historical places to visit like Paul Revere's house and the Old North Church. The Clough House was a home built around 1712 and managed to survive when all its neighbors, including the house that Benjamin Franklin owned next door, were torn down in this area of the North End. This was the home of one of Boston's most substantial mechanics, Ebenezer Clough, a master mason who helped build Christ Church, or the Old North Church. Once before the present-day promenade and newer buildings were built here, many small brick houses like this one made up the prosperous neighborhood of the North End. Today, the Clough House serves as a museum in conjunction with the Old North Church, and inside you can learn about historical preservation, and they do have an educational center where they bring students of all ages in to teach them about the various aspects of living in the North End during the 18th century. And at this particular time when I visited, I got to learn about 18th century chocolate making, which is a very cool experience. Let's take a listen.
Anise or anise, orange peel to help stave off the scurvy, and then a little bit of salt. Salt being probably the most useful there because salt actually inhibits your ability to taste bitterness. Now those we're going to blend up with our cocoa nibs here. Now these are the main ingredient in chocolate. They are the dried out, roasted, deshelled seeds of this magnificent fruit here. And yes, chocolate is a fruit. This is the cacao pod, originally native to Central and South America. The seeds of this are again what we're going to dry out and then roast and remove the shells of by a process called winnowing, where we shake and toss them in a basket like this to break them up. And as you're tossing them, the wind takes away the shells, so we're just finally left with the cocoa nibs. So we'll take those cocoa nibs and blend them up with our spices on some form of heated grinding stone. Now this right here is a metate. It's a traditional Mesoamerican grinding stone. It is made out of volcanic rock, as is its tangible counterpart here, which is called mono. Now, as I said, we want it to be heated, and as you can see today, I have this very historically accurate hot plate. Now, they would have used a bed of hot coals, but seeing as this building is over 300 years old, we didn't really want to risk burning it down with hot coals, so we went with the old hot plate here. But the principle is the same. What you want to do is start grinding all of your cocoa nibs and spices together, and then the pressure from grinding is going to start to release the natural fat in those nibs, which is what we call cocoa butter. And so that heat source is there to melt the cocoa butter down so that it can blend up with all the other spices and produce this thick paste you see forming here, which we call chocolate liqueur. Now, it takes about an hour working on a metate this size to make just a pound of chocolate. Pretty labor intensive. So by the time you get to your merchant chocolate makers who have been active here in the 18th century, they're not really still going to be using a metate. It's just not efficient enough. Not obviously that they care about, how much labor it takes, as well, they're not paying for that labor because the use of enslaved labor was quite prevalent in the chocolate making industry, as indeed it was in every industry at about that time. But they did want to have a higher turnout than a pound an hour. So instead of something small scale like this, they would have used large millstones made out of granite. Also, granite a little bit easier to source here in Massachusetts than volcanic rock. Not really a lot of volcanoes around here. But once we get enough of our chocolate liqueur, whatever grinding stone we're using, we're going to scrape it off and into a mold, a lot like this one down here. That'll hold just about a pound of it. And we'll let it dry out in that mold for about 5 days to a week, which will give us our chocolate cake. This finally is the consumer product. Is what you'd have actually gone to the store to purchase, although you would have, of course, bought it in a much larger amount, about that size there, which again is a pound, which is why they would call it a chocolate cake, as cake was a unit of measurement. Obviously not the fluffy, spongy birthday stuff. But you couldn't just take this home and take a bite out of it, because hard as a rock. Probably lose a tooth if you tried. We're not actually going to have a softer form of solid chocolate than this for another century or so after the time period that we're talking about. It wasn't until the mid-1850s during the Industrial Revolution that we were able to start producing chocolate soft enough to eat. So as a species, we've been drinking chocolate for nearly 4,000 years, but we've only really been able to eat it for a little over 150. And since down here in the Clough House, if you couldn't tell, we are still stuck in the 1740s. This is all we got. So that we will take home and grate down into a nice fine powder, like this here. And that we're going to mix up with hot water in our chocolate pot. Pretty common household item, the chocolate pot. It's distinct from your coffee pot and tea pot at the time because it's got this handy frothing stick here. Because unlike coffee and tea where you strain the hot water through it, we're mixing that powder right in. So the frothing stick's there to smooth out the gritty, powdery texture, froth it up into a nice, rich beverage like what y'all just tried and what I can offer y'all a sample of if you're interested.
After the demonstration, you get to taste the chocolate. It is a liquid drink and it is quite bitter. And then you can also take a closer look at all of the different ingredients that they use to make chocolate and the chocolate cake. I would highly suggest taking a look through their gift shop as it's right next to the demonstration area and they have a lot of unique gifts, and yes, they do sell chocolate. This is Salvatore Vinciguerra. Thank you for watching this video on the Clough House in Boston, Massachusetts. If you like this video, please like it, subscribe to this channel, and have a great day. Thank you.